and you thought your honeymoon was bad? This is Rashomon.
Hey, Jackie.
Hey, Greg.
Welcome to Seen and Heard.
Hey!
This is it. This is your one-stop shop for all things cinema.
All things sight and sound.
Honestly, we are kind of a one-stop shop for all things cinema now that we're doing our S'mores series, which is our bonus series for patrons and subscribers. We do it once a month, and we opened up the genre gates. So we're doing, last month we did John Waters' film Pink Flamingos, which is now your number one favorite movie of all time, I know.
Totally.
And then this month we're doing the poll. We just had a poll about it on Patreon, and it is Gaspar Noé's Love.
The people have spoken.
Yeah. So I feel like introducing that S'mores series really opens up the Seen and Heard oeuvre.
You're right, because we have the sight and sound list, which is our main thing, you know?
Yep.
And then
that's
have
our bread and butter.
Yeah. We have our personal prints, which are just movies that we think should be on the list, or just our personal greatest ever of all time movies. And then we have the S'mores series, which is raunchier.
Yeah, well,
it's like,
so far,
it's
yes.
kind of hard to describe. It's camp. I'm just going to call it camp.
Yeah, which is why we've run with that camping theme so hard with it. But you know what? I'm having a good time with the camping theme.
I love camp.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're not part of our S'mores team or camp Seen and Heard, Camp Seen and Heard.
If you're not a camper.
Yeah, a camper. Go check us out on Patreon. The link is in the show notes. We'd love to have you over there. It's more than just a bonus episode too, because we have monthly Zoom hangouts. We have some merch. We have discounts on merch. We have polls so people can vote on the S'mores episodes each month. So yeah, check it out.
Discussion boards.
But today we are gathered here on this very actually rainy day in Southern California.
That's great.
To discuss Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon.
So this movie is number 26 on the 2012 list and number 40 on the 2022 list.
Wow. It's kind of sad
that it fell.
Yeah. Kind of see this big push of like pushing out these
old movies.
Textbook films, landmark
but
films. But
this is a great, I don't know.
Anyway, before we get into Rashomon, Jackie, what have you been watching lately this last week?
I watched, for those of you who don't know, this is the birth month of our first lady of cinema, Isabelle Huppert. And so there is a Criterion
feature
channel.
Yeah.
Something on the channel. Basically, they curated this
a showcase.
Of all her movies. I watched one called Lulu, which I had never seen. It's with Gerard Depardieu. And it is this really fun... It's by Maurice Pialet, who is like kind of, people call him like the French John Cassavetes, and it totally shows in this movie. I've seen only one other movie of his, but it's just super fluid and natural, but also like heightened a little bit because they're just like, everyone's crazy, but like a Cassavetes movie. But it's really cool. It's a really fun, like anti-bourgeois, very loose kind of movie, and I really, really enjoyed it. I saw Blue Velvet for the first time.
First time?
Is this like your favorite movie of all time? The whole time I was watching it, I'm like, this is Greg's favorite movie.
My favorite movie is Midnight Cowboy. No, but it's a very, very, very special like building block in my my life. Yes.
I really liked it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Good. Because we're gonna do it eventually because it's on the list.
Yeah. And then I watched. I had kind of a Emma Thompson period piece double feature. I watched Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility, which is a great movie. I love it. And then I watched Howard's End, which I had never seen before.
Oh my God. It's
so
great,
good.
Right? It's so lush and literary.
I know. Like... After it, literally, I was with you and our friend Erin, and I bought Lady Chatterley's Lover, the book.
That's right.
By D.H. Lawrence. I haven't read it yet.
This book is so saucy.
It is so saucy. I haven't read it yet. I hadn't read it yet. But then after Howard's End finished, and after, like, I was just like, I don't want to leave this world. I'm going to read this book. So I just started reading it because of this Emma Thompson double feature. Although Sensibility takes place like 100 years before Howard's End. But yeah, that was my British period binge. And then yesterday I did see Return to Seoul. So this movie is by a filmmaker named Davy Chow. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Completely engrossing and tender and complicated story about identity, and I freaking loved it. It's incredible. Go see it. It was only playing at AMC, like a very limited run. I don't think it's there anymore. So I was like, I think I saw it on the last day. I was just like, I gotta see this.
I think it's playing at other more respectable theaters.
Probably. It is incredible. I want to revise my list of the best movies last year to add it on it because I loved it.
What would you bump off in its place?
Oh, do I have to bump something off? Do I have to?
You have to.
Okay, I'm going to be really bold and you're going to get mad at me.
Just do it.
I loved Banshees of Inisherin.
You're bumping Banshees?
I'm bumping Banshees.
What the fuck? It's my favorite. That's my number one.
In fact, I think I liked this even more than like Triangle of Sadness. Like I loved Triangle of Sadness, but like this movie was like, there's a difference for me. I don't want to be biased in terms of like comedy and drama, and I like to believe I'm not. But at the end of the day, I will probably choose a drama over a comedy. Like,
well, I'm wondering too if you would bump. Wouldn't you just slot this in whatever number it's going to be and then bump your number 10 slot?
That's true. I would probably. But like I was thinking about the top. Like,
wasn't Banshees like your number 3 or something?
I think I said Triangle was number 3.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
remember.
high to bump.
I wouldn't bump. I want this to be in my top 3 essentially.
Right. Cool.
So I mean like that shit. I do mean what you just said.
I'm
not saying I would take off Banshees.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to take off Banshees.
No. I'm just saying I would shift.
Got it.
Incredible movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see it.
What have you been watching?
This was a bad week for me, Jackie. I watched a lot of... I want to save everyone a complete rant here. I'll start with the best, which was still not great. A film called Dream Child from 1985, which is based on the woman who inspired Lewis Carroll for Alice in Wonderland.
Wow.
And it's based on the true story of her coming to America in the 1930s and like realizing she's this like hit. Like everyone, all the papers want to interview her and stuff. But she's also, and it's fascinating on paper because the film, she's like in her 80s. And she's recalling her time with Lewis Carroll, who's Professor Dodgson. Lewis Carroll was like his pen name. So she's recalling her childhood with him because he was just some guy.
Kind of creepy?
And he was like obsessed with her. Yeah. And there's some pedophilia that's like hinted
I've
to.
heard of this.
And so it's her realizing in her 80s of like, wait a second, like this relationship I had with them, like I've blocked it out for a reason. And the Jim Henson Company does these cool animatronics and puppets for it. So they have her as an 80-year-old going into like iconic scenes from Alice in Wonderland with these like really cool Jim Henson.
Wait, this is
puppets.
A documentary?
No, it's a film. It's a narrative film based on, true life. But it was unfortunately not great dramatically, actually. It's better I think it's better on paper than as a film. I think the director just kind of felt inexperienced, but Lewis Carroll is played by the late great Ian Holm, so that was cool. But then like Peter Gallagher was in it. It's like this, like he's really young in it,
yeah,
and he's like this sleazy reporter who like falls in love with like Alice's like servant.
Oh,
and it's just a little much. But that was the best. And then I saw All Quiet on the Western Front, the new Best Picture nominee, which was, I don't want to say like abysmal, but I think in this day and age, if you're going to make a World War I, World War II, Vietnam War story, you have to bring something new to the table. It's unacceptable to just like make another one. And in fact, in recent years, 1917, I thought was like an abomination. I think that was a video game. And it's clear that the people who made it were getting off on the technical stuff and this like making it look like one shot. That it is an insult actually to the war and the memories of people who died in the war of like making it like this video game. I didn't quite feel that way with All Quiet on the Western Front, but still it brought absolutely nothing new to the genre. And it just felt really digital, like, and the score, they went all in on this like score. I'm not sure who the composer is, but it sounds like wannabe Hans Zimmer doing Christopher Nolan, like, brrr. And it just like was so dumb. And again, you can still feel them getting off on like the explosions and the tracking shots through the trenches. And it's just, not good. And I think in a day and age where that's nominated for Best Picture, we have done something very, very wrong to get to where we are now. And then the worst film, the most abysmal film I saw this week, we did for the film club. It's Tom Jones, the Tony Richardson film. It's Albert Finney's big break from 1963, I believe, which it was just absolute dumpster fire trash. And it's funny because in the film club, it was one of our most interesting conversations because one person, who I'll not mention on this podcast.
Well, I follow him on Letterboxd.
Yeah. I'm sure he wouldn't care if I told people because it was but it was this great, one person loved the movie and thought it was a near masterpiece. Everyone else was like, this is a dumpster fire. And the conversation went on longer than normal just because each side was trying to see the other side's point of view.
That sounds interesting.
It was a terrible, terrible fucking movie. Terrible, terrible. It's like it's like Barry Lyndon. Like someone on Letterboxd, not me, I can't take credit for this, described it as Barry Lyndon. But if you paused Barry Lyndon every few minutes and put in like a Benny Hill routine, which is exactly what it feels like. It's a complete mess of a film, a waste of my time. And the only way I could get through the movie, and again, I never ever do this, is I went on my phone. Because I literally could not sit there any longer and just like subject myself to this movie.
Wow.
It's terrible. Anyway, and it's Best Picture winner. It won Best Picture.
Shut up.
At the 1964 Academy Awards. Yeah.
Wow. See, but that's what I mean. It's like maybe they've always been like this and we just haven't realized it.
Well,
but now we are.
It's still better than Crash.
Yeah, Crash, another example.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into this week's film. This is the big one. Pulling out all the guns this week. Not really, but from 1950, this is Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon.
Rashomon was released in 1950. It was directed by Akira Kurosawa, co-written by Kurosawa and Shinobu Hashimoto, based on two short stories by Renosuke Akutagawa, The Grove and Rashomon. Cinematography by Kazuo Miyagawa and music by Fumino Hayasaka. At the crumbling Rashomon gate, a woodcutter and a priest recount to a commoner the traumatic stories they just heard at a trial for the murder of a samurai and the rape of his bride. A bandit, Tajumaru, was arrested for the crime. At the trial, he admits to tying the samurai to a tree and raping the bride. The bride pleads for the bandit to duel her husband, for she can't bear to have two men alive who know how dishonorable she is. The bandit defeats the samurai honorably, but the bride runs away. The bride then testifies that after the rape, the bandit left immediately. She sets her husband free and begs him to kill her, but he only stares at her with disgust and loathing, and she can't bear it. She becomes hysterical, claiming she fainted while holding her dagger and woke up to find her husband dead. Then a medium communicates the dead samurai's side of the story. He claims that his new bride longed to go with the bandit and asks the bandit to kill her husband for her. The bandit is so disgusted that he releases the samurai and offers to kill the bride, but she gets away. The samurai claims he killed himself using the bride's dagger shortly after. Finally, the woodcutter admits that he saw the whole thing happen. After the rape, the samurai and the bandit fought a pathetic duel because the bride called each of them cowards. The commoner deduces that the real reason the woodcutter did not speak up is that he stole the valuable dagger in the aftermath of the incident. Back in the present, the priest, the commoner, and the woodcutter find an abandoned infant. The woodcutter offers to take the child home and raise it, which then restores the priest's faith in humanity. The film stars Takashi Shimura as the woodcutter, Minoru Chiaki as the priest, Toshiro Mifune as Tajumaru, the bandit, Machiko Kyo as the samurai's wife, and Masayuki Mori as the samurai. The cast asked Kurosawa to reveal the truth about the incident, but he repeatedly refused. In addition, the film is credited with being the first time a camera is pointed to the sun. The Rashomon Gate was a real structure in Kyoto. However, it fell to ruin in the 12th century and actually became a place for these kind of rejects of society. Thieves would hang out there. People actually abandoned babies and bodies there. So it kind of makes sense when he says, do you remember when the commoner says like, oh, there's a body up there probably?
Yeah.
Like I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool symbol for this like fall of humanity, really.
And there's no remnants of it now.
I don't think so.
Or like a plaque or something. Yeah, I've been to Kyoto, but did not know about that.
So for the film, the Rashomon Gate was constructed, as was the courtyard where the trial takes place. But the woods are all real woods, and he wanted it to be as simple and natural as possible. Kurosawa and Miyagawa, the cinematographer, didn't want to use any light that wasn't natural. So he started to use mirrors to reflect the light of the sun. You get a few really cool shots of like the light on actors' faces. The film was a huge success both internationally and in Japan. It won the Golden Lion Award at Venice, and it was the first Japanese film to go to the festival. And how it happened was an Italian professor, Giuliana Stramigioli, actually recommended the film to the festival because she was like a scholar of Japan, and the festival wanted to screen a Japanese film. At first, the Japanese government thought an Ozu movie would be better to represent Japanese cinema as a whole, but eventually Rashomon was chosen. And it really opened up Western audiences to start taking Japanese cinema seriously. They really didn't before. It was released in the United States shortly after, and the Academy gave it a special honor at the 1952 awards. There was no foreign language film category. So the award it got was the most outstanding foreign language film released in the United States during 1951. And some people think that it actually led to the creation of the category, which came in 1956. It's so weird. So that was the 52 awards, but then in 53, a year after its honorary award, it was nominated for Best Black and White Art Direction.
What the hell?
I don't know
so specific,
why.
Too.
And because I think that was the only one it was technically allowed to be, but why not cinematography?
Yeah.
Nominated for. I don't know how it works. It was adapted to a Western starring Paul Newman called Outrage, and it has become the namesake for this plot device of unreliable narration and hearing several sides to a story with the actual truth being revealed at the end of the movie. It's called Rashomon. That's the plot device. Most recently, did you see Ridley Scott's Last Duel?
No.
So it really draws on Rashomon, and I didn't know until now. But basically, because Matt Damon is the husband, Jodie Comer is his wife, and Adam Driver is the knight that rapes her, and you literally hear first Matt Damon, then Adam Driver, then Jodie Comer side of the story. And it's really similar, and it's really good. Those are my initial thoughts.
No, those aren't your initial thoughts. Those are your specs.
Those are my specs.
Those are good specs.
Thank you.
Really good specs.
Thanks.
You know, I'd give them an A, a solid A.
Aw, thank you. I worked really hard on them.
I know. I can see that.
Now, what are your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts. So this is only my second time seeing this movie. I think I saw it about 10 years ago, which is crazy. It was right when Criterion put the Blu-ray out, and I checked the back and it was 2012. That's when it came out. So that's when I first saw it. And so in high school, I will take credit for introducing my circle of friends to a lot of film because what can I say? I got there first. But the one thing that they had over me was Japanese cinema, Asian cinema in general, but they loved Kurosawa. They loved Seven Samurai and Throne of Blood. And I remember seeing clips of these and just not engaging with specifically the samurai film. At least at that age, for some reason, I just couldn't get into it. And so I kind of wrote Kurosawa off, and it wasn't until 2012 that I sat down with Rashomon. And I think this is exactly what I needed to get into Kurosawa because I loved it when I saw it, and it just so wasn't what I was expecting. You know, I thought it was gonna be this 3-hour samurai like epic. And who can't relate to just how purely this story is told? And I think the simplicity of the movie really works for it. It's literally like under 90 minutes. I think it's like 88 minutes or something. And the way that he so clearly tells the story is, I I think any storyteller or filmmaker is kind of in awe of, like how easy he makes it look. So I loved it. I loved how atmospheric it was. I loved how profound it was in the different tellings of the same story and how people can skew the truth and what really is the truth. And I loved this. So, but strangely didn't see it again in that 10-year span. I've since seen a lot of other Kurosawa films, but did not go back to this until prepping for this episode. And I mean, what can I say? It's a great, great, mighty masterpiece of cinema. I think it's such a roadmap. As you said, it's the first time the sun, like the camera focused on the sun, like, which is crazy.
I know.
It's like in Psycho in 1960, that was the first time you saw a flushing toilet on film. But it just blows my mind that like before 1950, no one had just like tilted the camera up. Like, what?
I know.
But beyond that, of course, like, yes, the structure and the way that this is told is seen prominently today. Like this is a classic storytelling technique. And so not only is this film super innovative, but I think it's a textbook film. It's one of the, I don't know if it was Portlandia or some sketch show where they made fun of like, okay, now you got to see Rashomon. And someone's like, oh, fuck. Because it is like one of those, it's again, when you take an intro to film course, this is like one of the first 3 movies you see or something, because it's that important. But I think, because we talk about homework movies sometimes on this show, and this movie does not feel like that at all. I think this movie is so engaging and engrossing and just leaps off the screen. So I agree. I love it. How about you?
I agree. This is why I wanted to do the Sight and Sound Challenge. These like heavy hitters that I hadn't seen. This movie, you're right, is explosive. Every element is explosive. The cinematography, the performances, the music, the story itself, the subject matter for 1950. And there was another spec I forgot to mention, something about this movie was released during the American occupation of Japan, and they had just like cleared the censors to allow rape to even be talked about, even though you couldn't even do it in the US. Which is crazy. Obviously the editing also explosive, which he did himself. I just love how raw and crude the movie is, and how decades ahead of its time it is in like all of these aspects. It's not just like the cinematography, it's everything. And that's what's so great about it. He makes walking through the woods interesting.
Yeah.
I could just watch him walk through the woods for hours. And it's about so many things, but it's also pretty simple. That's what I love about it. And when you're watching it, you can tell that, oh, like this can be remade in so many different ways, in so many different settings, and it has been in TV and in film. But while you're watching it, you get that thought because it is so simple, but also that nothing could ever beat this.
Yeah. So it's like the first and definitive telling.
Exactly. I watched like the trailer for that Outrage movie, the one with Paul Newman. It's so bad.
Yeah, I have not seen that.
Really bad. Yeah, it's horrible. Those are my initial thoughts without getting too deep into anything.
Cool. Well, that was the episode. That was Rashomon. What's next week, Jackie?
Well,
no.
Let's talk about, I think the best place to start is rain.
I was just about to suggest that. So first of all, how perfect. It's literally pouring outside right now. Right outside this window. It is pouring. And you came in here with your Mary Poppins umbrella.
I did.
Yes. Okay. To be honest, to be frank, in 2012 when I first saw this, and that it opens and it's just pouring on Rashomon, I was instantly in love, because that is my love language. I love seeing water in film.
Your love has been that old. If you've had this love of rain that long.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm a pluviophile, Jackie. That's the official word. Okay.
Do you like Waterworld at Universal?
Yeah, I love the show. I love the live show. Yes, I do. Count me in. This. I think it too. Like, what a way to start a movie, and that it's instantly atmospheric and instantly places you in a very specific time and place. Yes. And it's tactile. You can feel it. And it just does that over the opening credits with the rain coming down, leaking and puddles. And It's beautiful. And it's like a heavy rain.
Yeah,
too.
did you know that they had to add black ink to the rain machine so that it comes out in black and white?
Yeah. So when we did Singing in the Rain, we talked about, because it's a color film, they put milk in the rain.
Wow.
Because, a lot of times just regular
won't come
water
out.
won't show up on film.
I love that downpour. That is an amazing downpour. And also just the framing device itself. Like, I love how they're just sitting there sad in the rain, and it's going to be something good. And they tease it too, because that commoner comes and he's like, okay, tell the story. And you're waiting for it. It even zooms in on the priest, but then the story doesn't start. Did you notice that?
Uh-huh, yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool. And an amazing shot, like it's like the sign, the Rashomon sign, and then it just comes up and you can see them underneath the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what shot I'm talking about?
Yeah, the roof that's falling apart.
It's incredible.
And the way, too, that they're pulling apart Rashomon itself, like wood planks to stoke
make the
fire,
right? Yeah.
So that visual cue of just like having them, it's dilapidated, it's raining and they're tearing it apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does create, like you said, it creates this like, okay, let's all hunker down for story time,
Exactly.
because they're all stranded there.
Yeah.
They're all seeking shelter from the rain.
Exactly.
And coming together and building a fire, and they have none of them is in a hurry to go anywhere because they're stranded.
Right. And Kurosawa, he wanted to come back to, he talks about this movie in terms of like wanting to return to what he loved about silent film and purely visual storytelling. And it's so clear in the beginning and throughout the whole movie, obviously. Like they're so... I joked about like how tied the cinematography is to In the Mood for Love. Like how they're like so close that they're essentially Siamese twins.
Mm-hmm.
This as well, I feel that way. Like the cinematography and the story and the way it's moving, all just so married. But then you get that incredible shift. Yeah, they're abandoned there, but then you get that amazing shift into story time where he's walking through the woods with
sunny
the
day,
music, sunny day,
clear day,
reflecting off the axe.
Yeah.
It is a crazy shift. It left me like, whoa.
Yeah. It's almost like the 2001 Bone to spaceship transition.
Yes, it is. Except you have an axe.
Yeah.
Yeah, following him from behind, looking up at the trees above. Like, that's what I mean. It's like immediately when it started, I'm like, this is decades ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Decades.
Kurosawa is so ahead of the game. I think too, like the fact that he lets the movie breathe in that way is so crucial to it working, because you do, and I could see why this maybe wouldn't be some people's bag, because so much of it is just like existing in real time in the woods, and there's a lot of Mifune running through the woods, and some people might think, oh, could you cut some of that here and there? And sure, you technically could and get the same story, but I think it's crucial to the almost like real time that he creates in each of those tellings of the story.
Right. Definitely. And I love like the clues when he's walking in the woods, the hat and then the rope, like the way that he built this tension of just him walking. It's incredible. It's really incredible.
It really is.
You mentioned
this Kurosawa guy, huh?
He knows his stuff. You mentioned Mifune, and I think it's time to talk about him.
Yeah, and we did. If you have not heard our episode on Seven Samurai, you'll hear a lot of waxing poetic about Mifune and Kurosawa.
He is giving his absolute all, and best,
and in a role pretty similar to his role in Seven Samurai, where it's this feral performance.
Yes, this is pre Seven Samurai, and he's
4 years
smacking bugs off of him. He's wiping his sweat. Apparently, Kurosawa told him to act like a lion, just in his like physicality, which he totally does. He's like stalking, and I almost expect him to get down on all fours and like crawl. And it's just so interesting because his laugh is the same as in Seven Samurai, but it's so different here. It's like we all know that laugh, but here in this, when he's like a rapist and bandit, it's so evil.
I think too, there's something just so inherently likable about Mifune that
it's
hard to ever hate him, even when he's doing these terrible things.
No, totally.
Well, it's funny too, because the roles, like you have this in Seven Samurai where it's like you said, he's like a lion, he's like an animal, but then you have roles like Throne of Blood or in High and Low, which might be my favorite Kurosawa movie, where he's much more powerful and cool and collected. So he really ran the gamut there.
Totally. And I think this is the first time he is doing period stuff for Kurosawa,
Mhm.
because he was in one movie before this, but it was not period. I want to see him in like not period.
You did. You looked at a picture for our Seven Samurai episode, and you were like,
He is
"Whoo!"
fine.
Yeah.
He is, but I want to see him just act like a normal guy.
Check out High and Low. Oh my god, that might be my favorite Kurosawa.
It's not period.
No, it's contemporary 1960s Japan,
Okay.
and he plays like the head of like a shoe company or something.
Oh, cool.
It's so good. Oh my
Nice.
god.
Love him. Now let's get into like.
Well, wait, just quickly too.
Yeah.
There's the scene at the end when him and the woodcutter get into not the woodcutter, the samurai get into this fight in the last telling of the story, and it's like a very prolonged sort of
Oh
like,
my God,
and he
it's
loses his sword
incredible.
for a while, and just the physicality of that scene, like I can only imagine how exhausting that would be,
Yeah.
especially for Mifune, who's like rolling around, sliding down like mud hills.
in real woods, like those weren't like crafted soft leaves or something,
Yeah.
like fake leaves or
It looks
anything
exhausting.
Yeah.
It's really, really exhausting.
I mean, we'll talk about that last telling, but it's so that fight when I was watching it, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Why are they fighting so bad? Like, why is something stopping them from actually fighting? Like, it was, I don't know. I thought, you know what I thought it was? Because right before that, the priest talks about like the demon of Rashomon who has left. For a split second, I'm like, is this demon like holding them back somehow from actually fighting? Because it happens like right before. But no, let's talk about these stories, right? Like this is the nitty gritty. It's just that the subjectivity of each one, like I said, the camera is so involved. It's all to do with camera. And it's so funny, like the first one holds weight because it's like it's really the bandit story, but it is still the first time we're hearing it. So I feel like it does hold that extra weight, especially of setting up like how they even ended up in the situation.
Yeah, it sets up the whole the prologue part, which you don't get in the other stories.
Exactly. So it's like that part, at least I feel like, is a little objective, and you get that triangle of shots, you know, the one where it's like, it's so incredible, but it's each character, and you know what I'm talking about, right? When they're just staring at each other, it's like, it's objective in that it's like each character, but it's not really each character. It's like the side of them, and really the subject of a shot is another character. So it's kind of that character's point of view.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's so, so cool. What a way to set it up. What a way to get this showdown started. I love it. It's so good. And you know what else? Speaking about this subjectivity, there are no judges, right?
Mm-mm.
No one is asking them questions.
You don't
no
even
one
hear
is
their
doubting
voices.
them. Yeah. So
You
they're
don't even
allowed to
see
just,
them.
There's no judges. Yeah, you don't see them. And it's kind of, at first it was a little weird because it was like, huh? Like they were asking a question, right?
Yeah, you only get
and
their
the
response.
bandit was like, what? Did I leave? Yeah. And but you don't hear the judges.
What film did we just do? Because we equated it to like Charlie Brown, how you never see the adults or you don't hear the adults. What we just did a film where
In
like
the Mood for Love.
Oh, right.
The spouses. Yeah.
Right, the spouses. Yeah. There you go. Ping pong.
Ping pong, right? What are the odds? Yeah. So I just thought that was incredible. And of course, yeah, like when the bandit Tajumoru is saying the story, the battle is like glorious and choreographed. And how many times does he say like, oh, the samurai fought really bravely. The samurai was like so honorable. Like he really drives it home, which then matches with the last one so perfectly that it's like, no, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It's just, that horrible, messy fight. I love it. Also in the bandit's telling, you have the famous sun shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's when he's essentially like about to rape her. And she like looks at the sun and she like gives in, and you get that shot of her hand on his back. Like that's what I mean when I mean it's all camera. It's all subjective camera in these three stories. And people, I found something online about how it's like he's subverting light expectations, because it's like she sees the sun, but she's about to get raped. So it's like weird that it's like not darkness. Like he plays with light and dark in like opposite ways. Dialectic ways,
right
is so weird. But I also just think it's kind of just because it is the bandit's telling, and in his mind, she was seduced, quote quote, like
like she gives in,
right.
And
then there's the wife, the bride story. First of all, before I get more deep into it, I just want to say what immediately struck me, like the second the movie ended, was just that each of them, usually I feel like when you get this trope, this Rashomon, that's what it's called, it's like someone is trying to avoid the blame and not be convicted. But each of the people claim that they are responsible for the death.
Right.
That's what's so wild to me.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
They're saving face and they care about honor so much that they are straight up confessing to murder instead of trying to say it wasn't me. This is what actually happened. Each of them claims that they were responsible for the death of the samurai.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And the different reactions they have to that too. Like in the telling with Mifune's character, like he's proud of it. He's boasting.
He's proud of it. He's boasting, but he also says like, I won fair and square. It was a good fight. Like our swords touched 23 times.
Yeah. And then the wife, like it's a different telling. She's crying and it's...
Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing. Like, so we have the bandit, right? In which she apparently submitted, right? But the bride story opens with her crying. And it opens with her crying. It's one of my favorite shots. And again, when I was like, oh, this is so ahead of its time. So the priest, it's back in the framing device time, like the present tense. The priest is like, and then we heard the bride story. And it cuts immediately to that shot where she's crying. It's at the courtyard, actually. And they're in the background staring at her.
Yeah.
That shot, I was like, oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So not only is she crying then, but then when she tells her story, she's crying on the ground and is like inconsolable.
Yeah.
And can't even get up to free her husband. Like she stands up and then immediately falls to the ground crying again. So of course, like the subjectivity. Anyway, that's the whole movie. Like that's really it.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. What an amazing move not seeing the look on the husband's face. So she frees him, right?
Right.
And then she's just taken aback, right? And we don't know why she's so confused when she's looking at her husband.
It holds on her for a while.
Holds for a while. And you're just like, what? And then there's that amazing shot of her covering her eyes, not wanting to look at him. Ugh.
It's so good.
But we do see his face. We see his face a little bit, right? We don't see it immediately. You'd think like after she says like he was looking at me with such loathing, like we would see his face. We only get like little glimpses of it. Does he look like he loathes her?
Yeah. Sure. That look. Yeah.
Really?
Sure.
I don't know. I saw that. I'm like, that's loathing and disgust. He kind of looks turned on. No, I swear. He looks like sinister, like wickedly, like he's not looking at her frowning. He has like a little grin on his face.
I did not see a grin.
I saw a grin.
I think the projection in that scene is like, how could you let this happen to you? And your body was sullied. And that's the look he's giving.
It's a different, he's not turned on in like a good way. I think it's a bad way. I think it's like, oh, like you're a whore now. Like,
well, yeah.
Like,
but how is that not discussed? He's like turned on.
I think he's turned on. He doesn't look that mad.
He looks like he's just done with her. He's like, that's it. I'm walking away. Yeah.
Maybe I should rewatch.
This poor woman.
The poor woman.
Because however way you slice it, she's attacked.
She still was
in
attacked
every
and
version
raped.
of the story.
Yeah. And then we have the samurai story, the husband, right? Yeah. Told through a medium.
I love to. The first time I saw this,
so weird.
And you get to that point,
it's incredible.
I was like, this movie took a turn for the best.
Amazing.
And it's so weird too, the way that the medium's like falling to the ground, and she's like
bizarre,
snaking around, and then the creepy dubbed voice.
Oh
too,
my God, it's so scary.
Yeah,
and I love how like I had no idea that was coming. And the priest wasn't even like, oh, this is like he was just like, yeah, he spoke through a medium. Like nothing, no explanation, no like anything.
Yeah, it was more accepted. It was a more accepted.
But still, I just love how like cut and dry it was.
Right. They didn't make a big deal out of it.
Exactly.
Saying, yeah.
And with the husband, okay, so when it's the husband's story, the story itself opens with his wife sitting peacefully on the leaves. Like it literally almost looks like a romantic scene. She's like sitting and talking to Mifune's bandit
after
character.
The attack has happened.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like, what does that tell you? it almost looks romantic. And then he says like she raised her face in a trance. She's never looked as beautiful. And then with the husband, you have that amazing shot of her clutching the bandit, like she's holding on to him, and it's just her eyes.
Yep.
That's the picture I chose for our website, by the way.
Nice.
And you have that shot when it's the husband's story, of course. Yeah, I think, honestly, I'm sorry, going back to The Medium, Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. I think she should have won. What an incredible job.
Yeah, she's only in it for a couple of minutes, but...
really leaves an impression.
Yeah. She's believable. In the same way, too, that, like, Throne of Blood is Macbeth, so he has the witches of Macbeth. And Kurosawa was so good at that, like, otherworldly, like, scary sort of just, like, feeling.
Yeah.
It's, like, hard to... It's very easy, like... The medium in this could have been a total joke.
Yeah.
Like some woman just being like, oh, you know, like acting like she was possessed or something.
Yeah.
But instead you get this very
Scary,
bizarre snake-like
formidable
performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have the woodcutter. So the woodcutter opens with her crying, right? And the bandit begging her, like, be my wife, come with me.
It's so
and
romantic,
then threatening her that, like, I'm gonna have to kill you if you don't come with me. So I think it's pretty safe to say that the romantic looking up into the sun didn't happen. But this goes into my question for you is, how truthful do you think that the woodcutter story is? Like, do you rely on it as fact?
No, my takeaway from this movie is I don't rely on any of I think the truth is pieces in all four of the stories.
Probably.
I never got the impression that, like, the woodcutter story was, like, the actual story now.
What about with... You never did?
No, because, again, too, like, if he did witness all of this happen, and this whole ordeal must have lasted, like, hours, right? I mean, look at the whole thing, and he's tied up, and then he goes to get her and brings her back, and she tries to run away, and then he assaults her, and then after... You know, it's a prolonged thing. So where is this woodcutter this whole time... where he can observe closely what's happening while them still not knowing that he's there?
I think he mentions that he came in and found her crying, him tied.
Oh,
like,
that's right. That's right.
The beginning.
Yeah, but I still, I mean, to be undetected, and I don't know. I don't think it's. I don't think it's like the definitive telling.
I kind of do.
Because for me, you know what? It would cheapen the movie a little bit. If they're like, here's 3 different versions, here's a 4th, this is what really happened.
Right, and they don't, which is really smart.
Yeah.
But me personally, I feel like...
But because he's the only one with no skin in the game.
Exactly. And the way that, we see that horrible, like, messy fight that wasn't glorious at all. And, like, we do open with her crying. Like, it's like, you do get kind of the mixtures of everything that we heard previously. Like, she cuts her husband free and says, like, you guys need to decide. She kind of did that in the bandit story, right? Where she's like, one of you guys has to die. I don't know. So I feel like I kind of do. But then, of course, you have the samurai saying, like, you've been with 2 men. Why don't you kill yourself? Where in his story, I just loved that. I loved the contrast between him in this woodcutter story and him in his story, because he's so distraught in his story that he literally kills himself. And then in this one, he's like, no, you kill yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you're disgusting.
Yeah.
And that contrast is just, like, amazing.
I think he deserves Husband of the Year. His wife is assaulted, and then he's like, it's over.
It's so bad.
Either I'm dying or you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then I love how the bandit stands up for her. He's like, don't bully her like that.
Yeah.
In the woodcutter story.
See, you almost, and because it's Mifune, you almost sympathize with him.
Because it's him.
You realize what a piece of shit he is.
But in reality, if we're taking this for reality, like, this is what I mean with, like, I believe this one the most. In reality, they both abandon her, if you think about it.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's so funny that, like, the bandit doesn't want her now that she's undesirable to the husband. And that's so telling.
Yeah,
like, it's so... And it's about, like, class at this point, and it's about gender. Like, this one is the most interesting because it is about, like, all these things. And the drastically different bride. Like, let's talk about the bride in this one. And how she says, like, her whole speech about, you're not a man. You're not standing up for me.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a man. I thought you would take me away from all of this.
Yeah.
But then, once her husband dies, she runs away anyway. So, like, was her plan to just provoke them? And then, like, what would happen if her husband won?
Well, They would have continued their lives now.
That's what I'm saying. They would have. She only runs away when her husband dies.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe she was waiting for her husband, to like stand up for her.
Who knows if she was even pitting them against each other? It might have just more been like she was fed up with these two assholes.
She was. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't think she actually was doing that. Otherwise, she would have gone with the bandit if she really wanted to be saved from this life.
No, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
She really was just sick of their shit.
Yeah.
But I do think about what would have happened if the samurai had survived.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
That wicked laugh she has, that's incredible. When she shifts from crying to laughing.
Oh, yeah.
She spits on the bandit.
Well, he literally just said the husband said to her like, "Oh, women, they're weak."
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
Stop crying.
And she literally bullies them into fighting each other. Like,
yeah, and it's such an unglamorous fight. I think it's exactly how a fight would look if someone was a bystander from like far away and like saw this playing out.
Yeah,
like it's different than the samurai or the bandit telling the story, because in that they're right up in the action, they're close. It's more in your face. This version where it's prolonged and it's messy and people are rolling down hills and like trying to grab swords and it's just like playing grab ass.
No, that's probably
what it would look like.
Happened. Yeah. But it is really, they're like, when I say like she bullies them into fighting, it's like they both assume this honor thing and this gender thing. I feel like this, like, I'm a man, I have to fight.
Yeah, of course.
Even though they both don't want to.
Yeah.
But they do it.
Well, it's that feudal Japanese,
I know, it's wild
mentality. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all about honor. Honor first.
Yeah. I also love how from the fight on, like when she's gonna run away, there's no talking. That was really silent movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't say like, let's go. He's just like literally an animal. He's like, like, come with me. And she's like, no.
Yeah.
I just did.
Singing in the rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible close-ups of the sweaty faces in that scene.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yeah. Oh my God.
What's your favorite, which story is your favorite to watch, let's say?
The Medium.
Really?
Yeah.
That one's like the most boring. He just kills himself.
It's because it's a medium, Jackie, okay?
I know. What the heck? No, I mean the story.
No, I know what
itself.
you're saying. I guess the last one is the most interesting.
Probably.
The last one has the most to it. It's the most complicated.
Yeah.
Emotionally, and I feel like a lot of the other ones are kind of black and white, and that one's like very, very gray. Everyone's gray.
Because it's the objective viewpoint.
Yeah, the person not involved.
Yeah. It reminds me of the rules of the game. Do you remember that quote, the very famous quote from Rules of the Game? Which is just, the awful thing about life is this: everyone has his reasons.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the most famous quote. I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Rules
is that said by Renmore in the film?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's this movie.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the ending. The baby.
The baby. Pretty wild. It's wild.
And then the heavens open up, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, he's getting redemption. It's a nice little, it's a good way, because otherwise the end of this film is like,
nihilistic as hell.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it adds kind of because Kurosawa was, I think, ultimately an optimist, and so few of his films have this like fatalistic ending.
Yeah.
So yeah, this makes sense for him. And would it have been the choice I made? Maybe not. I don't know. No, I'm saying in terms of like a storyteller,
right.
But like, no, yeah, I like it. It works for me. What about you?
I like it too, I think. The only thing that confused me was that whole like amulet thing.
Right.
That seemed...
I don't quite know what's going on there either, to be honest.
Because they mention an amulet with the samurai thing.
Uh-huh.
Is it related? Maybe it's just like a language thing we're not getting. I don't know.
Because
it's
either.
like the baby has an amulet on it, and then that commoner steals it. But like, why would someone leave their baby with it if you're abandoning a baby?
It's like a good luck amulet or something.
But they're abandoning.
Yeah, but they still wish it well. It's not like they threw a baby in a river.
Oh, I was thinking about it like that. I don't know why.
I mean, they put it. It was covered.
There's no safe place. There's no fire station.
But it was sheltered from the rain.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. How sad. Especially I watched because Return to Soul is an adoption story. She's a baby who was adopted by a French couple. And I just have such a soft spot for orphans, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all very fresh in my mind. So that baby was
I would love to see Rashomon 2, where we follow the upbringing of that baby.
Okay. And then I started thinking, is this baby the baby of this couple? But then, like, I know in the beginning, the log line I said, like, oh, if you thought your honeymoon was bad. I don't know why I assumed that they were newlyweds, because she's referred to as the bride in a lot of things I read. So I just kind of assumed that it was just their wedding.
Right.
I don't know if that's the case. But then when I saw that baby, I'm like, is that their baby?
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Right? Because
wouldn't that throw
again,
another wrench into the works?
Because of the amulet thing that they mentioned.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
is this related? So I don't know. I think I was a little, I don't want to say I'm confused by it, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, interesting. I'm not ruling out that possibility.
How could it be their baby, though? How did it get there?
They put it there? Oh, wait.
They
No.
abandoned their baby, but then they each want to claim that they killed someone because they care about honor that much.
You're right. And the husband's already dead at this point before the baby gets placed there anyway. Unless the baby's been chilling there this whole time, just not crying. Maybe it's been sleeping the whole time.
Or they had a secret, like that's why they were traveling, to leave the baby there. But then why would they if they care about honor so much and they seem like they're rich?
Yeah, they do seem like they're rich. Well, because the events of the film, the framing device of them at Rashomon, the events took place, like 3 days before?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I would say it would be a little too convenient if it was their baby.
No, I'm not saying it's their baby.
But it would be an interesting
It ran through
wrinkle.
my head.
Yeah. It's Mifune's baby.
Maybe.
No.
You never know.
Because again, how would he? He was most likely imprisoned at the end of his story because he is this famous bandit. So
and
he
then
would
he
not
was taken from the horse. Yeah.
He was raised. No, he's raised by a horse.
Yeah, that too.
Oh, he had a horse for a mother and a donkey for a father. Speaking of donkey, I did see EO.
Oh, did you like it?
No, I didn't really like it.
Why?
I don't know.
It's so good.
I think I like Balthazar more. Anyway, sorry.
I mean, Balthazar is amazing.
I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the episode because I know we did. EO was on your list for best films of last year.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. You didn't like it?
I thought it was okay. I like some of it. Yeah, no, I don't know. I didn't.
Sucker.
I didn't
listen,
dislike
I'm a sucker.
it, but because I went into it thinking like, oh, this is gonna fix all the problems I have with Balthazar, and instead,
it's literally very similar to Balthazar.
Yeah,
except it's more about like I think vegetarianism,
right? Yeah,
than Balthazar is, and
But yeah, this is one heck of a picture.
Rashomon. What a picture! What a picture about saving face.
Yeah. I just like to, we talk about, we're both big Bergman fans, and I think the way that Bergman is able to do these like 90-minute super condensed,
amazing,
super powerful movies like Winterlight and stuff, and then also do these 5-hour epics like Fanny and Alexander and Scenes from a Marriage, like cool range. Like the range there is just incredible. And I think similar is Kurosawa. Again, the 3.5-hour epic and the 90-minute film and everything in between. And it just takes a lot because there's such a simplicity to this where something like, I'll just mention Seven Samurai because so far it's the only other Kurosawa we've done on this show. There's a lot of moving pieces in that and a lot of characters and a lot of plot and things happen. And it's wild. Like you can see the fingerprints on both films from him, but like, it's just, that range is crazy.
It is.
Goals.
And that's why I think Mifune is so interesting that he plays like this variation on a theme, if you will.
It's almost like Seven Samurai is the casino to Rashomon's Goodfellas.
Yeah,
it's in terms of they bring Joe Pesci back and they're like, okay, do what you did before.
But like
tweak it a little. Yeah, you're bad, and do it. Yeah. What can I say? It's funny too because then you have like a middle ground, like him and Yojimbo. Have you seen Yojimbo? That's almost more like he's kind of ferocious in that, but he's not so like feral. He's a little bit slicker.
Okay.
So he can, just the range of Kurosawa and Mifune. Who knew? Yeah. Who knew? What's your favorite sight from Rashomon?
Okay. It's, I thought I had written something. Okay. And then I said I'm going to save it because I thought I had written it for favorite site, but it turns out I did. I have several. But if I had to narrow it down, probably... Oh, now I remember what I did. Okay, never mind. When it's that triangle of shots, when it's the start of the bandit story, it's like the start of how they even got into the situation. And then the last one that kind of circles behind the wife and lands on her. That is an amazing shot.
So good.
And then it really springs into action. She like attacks him or tries to attack him.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
What's yours? Rain.
It's the whole opening credits.
I knew it.
It's like 10 shots or 15 shots.
It's amazing.
But come on. Come on.
It's so funny. It's really, I love hearing your favorite site.
Am I too predictable?
No. It just is so telling of our tastes.
Well, yours actually means something. Mine is more aesthetic.
That's
more
telling.
aesthetically
It's
pleasing.
Telling.
Well, I try for a nice balance. Look, if there wasn't rain in this movie, like all over this movie, then sure, I would pick like a really meaningful image. But because there is so much rain, I'm like a kid being led away with candy. But I will argue that the rain in this film serves a greater purpose of a certain kind of cleansing. Because again, at the end of the film, the rain stops.
And the skies part.
Yeah.
And
the clouds part and the sun comes out. Exactly. So
I had I had read that apparently he wanted to do a similar thing where, remember how I said he was like playing with light and how it like means the opposite thing of what he's like projecting. He wanted to wait for like a dark cloud to come to end the movie with, but it didn't come. So he kind of had to make it like,
oh, huh.
I don't know the specifics, but I think he was hoping for a cloud. So it's like not too happy.
I get it. I think it worked. It's so specific. He's like, I want it to clear, but not entirely. I want it to clear for a second, then I want a dark cloud to pass over.
I think that's what he wanted.
I don't know.
What's your favorite sound?
My favorite sound is sounds of the rain. So unfortunately, in that opening credit sequence, which is my favorite site, you don't actually hear the rain because it's just the music. But later in the film, as they're sitting around, you just hear the rain pouring.
You did sight and sound rain? What's the word? What's the word for a fascination or love of water?
Pluviophile. Specifically,
I think you're the
that's
poster
rain.
boy for the pluviophiles out there.
Well, I think too. I almost went with the sound of the medium's voice. That's really the voice that's
good.
Coming through, but
really, really good.
And then there's even that like bolero-esque music that plays.
Yeah.
But no, it's the rain. Come on.
Well,
let's play a little section of that rain.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like it does right now, right out the window.
Yeah, exactly, outside.
What's your favorite sound?
It's that bolero. That song.
Oh yeah.
It's so incredible.
Is that actually bolero, or is it just like so it sounds like a riff on bolero?
Like you know what I'm talking about is when she's walking towards him with the knife.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Let's play a clip.
And you hear her like freaking out and saying, "Stop looking at me," and it's building and she's holding this knife and come on.
Yeah, it's so good.
I also really loved, like, I'm telling you, the second it shifted to him walking in the woods with the axe and that music is playing, I was like, oh my God, like, this is so cool. So that music also.
Nice.
So what did our friend Pauline say?
Okay, Pauline.
Why do you say it like
I have
that?
no idea why I just had that tone. Okay, Pauline Kael. This is what she had to say. Just a little brief snippet here. I couldn't find the whole thing. She says, this double crime is acted out 4 times in the versions of the 3 participants, each giving an account that increases the prestige of his conduct, and in the version of a woodcutter who witnessed the episode. Continuously reconstructing the crime, Rashomon asks, how can we ever know the truth? This great enigmatic film was directed by Akira Kurosawa from stories by blah, blah, blah. The introductory and closing sequences are tedious. The woman's whimpering is almost enough to drive one to the nearest exit. Yet the film transcends these discomforts. It has its own perfection.
Wow. I
really like the framing story.
I like the framing story, but like I said, the baby in the end is a little...
You know what?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm on the same page with you. I would cut the baby out of this movie.
I probably would too. Are we bad people?
No, because I think it makes it a little too like...
It's like, what? Where did this baby come from? Why is he crying now?
It's a little too easy a redemption, right? Almost like a...
And it's like the way that the priest pulls back, and it's like, no, like I have 6 kids. I just want to take care of him. And I'm like, okay. And then the priest is like, yes, faith in humanity restored.
It's a little too cheesy. Yeah, it's a little cheesy. I think it puts a little too nice of a bow on the end, which I think he probably felt that. That's why he wanted to add that dark cloud.
Yeah. Too bad. Nature wasn't on his side.
No, just end it after the woodcutter's story is told, and maybe the rain lets up, and then the guys just disperse and they just leave and they go their separate ways. That ending would have worked right there.
Or they have to help each other somehow.
Nah. But they've helped each other over the course of the film by regaling this story and sharing their thoughts about humanity over it and coming together during this storm. I don't know.
I think he was looking for something where it's like, yes, they need to show that they're actually selfless and not just interested in their own needs.
I get it.
But a random baby showing up, I don't know if that's it.
No.
But yeah.
That the baby is the only reason I didn't give this a full 5 stars.
Yeah. I didn't give it anything yet.
Give it a 4.5.
I don't like rating things.
Okay, that's what you said. And you said you stopped rating things, but then I literally saw you just rated stuff. So you're already slipping, Jackie.
No. When I feel so moved to rate something, that's when I do.
I see.
But then I feel like for all the Sight and Sound movies, I kind of have to. I don't know why. Actually, I don't know. Should we go to, speaking of Letterboxd?
Letterboxd, let's do it. I've got a 1.5 review here that just says, I'm upset I didn't like this movie. I know it's considered one of the best movies ever made and very influential, but most of the movie didn't work for me. I wasn't a big fan of the characters or the plot. I felt like it dragged, even though it was a short movie. The cinematography was nice with some really interesting shots, especially from a film from 1950. I'll have to give this movie a rewatch in the future. Well, at least that's all you can ask. I think when you sit down to a great work and it doesn't connect with you, I think most people, if it's really revered and it's a really important film, like I think the coming back thing is a good attitude to have, because art changes over time in our lives.
Yeah. Greg, this one's for you. 4.5 stars. Find yourself someone who loves you as much as Akira Kurosawa loves rain.
Yeah, there's a whole extended sequence in Seven Samurai too, that battle that happens in the rain.
It's so good.
Yeah. I have a 0.5-star review.
Wow.
That just says, I will never forgive my professor for making me watch this. A boring movie is one thing, but the incessant bolero soundtrack? What did I do to deserve that? Also, you'll never forgive your professor. Poor you. If you're in an intro to film class, you need to watch this fucking movie, okay? And not complain about it. It's fine if it doesn't connect with you, but Jesus Christ, it is 88 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. 1 star. One of the most boring and slow movies I've ever seen. Like nothing even happened.
Oh my God. If this is the most boring movie you've seen, like I feel bad for you.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
I know. 5 stars. This is how I feel sometimes. A younger, more convicted me would posit a grandiose statement on this film along the likes of a memory's truthfulness has no bearing on its reality. One's lived reality cannot be cross-examined. But nowadays, I'll simply say, that shit beautiful. That's how I feel. A great review. Well,
this was Rashomon.
Yeah, it was.
Now we should do this episode 3 more times, but do it slightly different.
Yes. Yeah.
What are we doing next week, Jackie? We're doing a personal print, and therefore...
Why did you ask me if you were going to answer?
I was just setting up the next segment here. It's a personal print. It's your choice. It's your picking. We have not done a personal print in months. I think it's been September or October. I think our last personal print was Housekeeping, where we had Christine Lottie on.
Crazy.
So for those who don't know what a personal print is, because it's been so long, it's just an episode where we do a film off the list. It's not on the Sight and Sound list that one of us loves, or both. Or a movie we grew up with, or a formative film, just a film that means a lot to us. So It's Jackie's turn to pick.
Lady's choice.
And so it's a little bit of a surprise. Do you want to give a little tease, a hint, or do you want to keep it totally mysterious?
All I'll say is ATM machine.
Nice.
People are going to think it's Thing. L'argent by Thing.
Bresson.
Yeah, but it's
good
not.
movie.
I'm just saying it's not.
That's my favorite Bresson.
Is it really?
Yep. I actually really love that movie.
Wow, it's really good.
Yeah. Anyway, hope you come back. Join us for this mysterious personal print next week. If you follow us on social media, we'll be dropping hints to what it is before it comes out. But yeah, hope you come back next week.
Yeah,
Until then, I'm
too.
Greg.
I'm Jackie.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Seen and Heard is an official podcast of the Arroyo Film Club, featuring Greg Kleinschmidt and Jacqueline Postagian. Theme music by Andrew Cox. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any questions, comments, or you just want to say hi, email us hello@seenandheardpod.com or visit our website, www.seenandheardpod.com.